What is this phenomenon called March Madness? Well, it's the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournament that starts the second week of March and extends all the way until the first week of April. The bracket, or field, consists of 64 teams, and each round moves closer and closer to the NCAA tournament game. March Madness is a tradition that occurs every year and puts the whole country in a frenzy with the wild finishes to each game. March Madness gives viewers everything they could ask for: David beating Goliath, buzzer-beating shots, loser go home, and the raw emotions of the players, coaches, and fans. Division I schools get the most attention from March Madness, but Division II and Division III schools also have NCAA tournaments and feel the madness. Both the women's and men's teams at LAU Post made it to the field of 64 after excellent regular seasons. The Lady Pioneers finished with a 21-9 record and concluded the regular season winning 6 of 7 games to get the 4th seed in the East Coast Conference Tournament. The winner of this tournament would receive an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. The Lady Pioneers would win the first round of the ECC tourney against NYIT by a score of 85-70. However, in the semifinals against top-seeded Dowling, the Lady Pioneers fell 70-53 and were forced to sweat out Selection Sunday to see if they would enter the NCAA tournament with an at-large bid. To the excitement of the players, the LAU Post Lady Pioneers were granted a spot in the dance as the 7th seed against the Southern Connecticut State Owls, the 2nd seed in the East. Here's Lady Pioneers head coach Deirdre Moore giving her thoughts about being included in the NCAA tournament.
We have new life, in the second chance. We sat with the men last night, which was awesome. Watched the selection show. They came down to support us. We stayed and watched them. And the girls talked about not taking it for granted and, if given a second chance, really trying to make some noise in the regional tournament.
Given a second chance, the Lady Pioneers traveled up to Walton, Massachusetts to host school Bentley University and were looking for the upset against the favored Owls. Tip-off was set for 2:30 on Friday, March 9th. Everything would be left on the line. The game started slow as neither team scored for the first 2 minutes of play. Finally, Lady Pioneers senior guard Felicia Joyner scored the game's first points with 17:54 to play in the first half. The Lady Pioneers played smothering defense throughout the first half, constantly forcing the Owls to take difficult shot attempts. At one point, the Lady Pioneers led by 13 points when the score was 22-9. As the first half came to a close, both teams began to find a little bit of rhythm on the offensive end. However, the underdogs, the Lady Pioneers, were leading 27-17 at the half, smelling an upset. To open the second half, the Lady Pioneers went on an 8-2 run and further extended their lead to 16 points. With the score 35-19, it felt as if the game was getting out of hand. But there was this feeling that a team as good as the Owls were, that they would eventually make a run and close the gap. And they did. With just over 9 minutes to play in the game, the Lady Pioneers led 45-34. But fast forward just a mere 3 minutes, and the game was tied at 45. It was slowly unraveling for LIU. The Lady Pioneers would have the lead once more, 57-52, after Chelsea Williams hit a clutch three-pointer with just over a minute remaining. But the Owls quickly responded as Shaniqua Fuller hit a layup. But in addition to the basket, an intentional flagrant foul was called on the Lady Pioneers forward, Nicolette Marciniak. The Owls would get 2 free throws plus the ball. It was a questionable call, and the momentum clearly swung to the Owls. LIU still led 57-56, but on the final possession of the game, Sylvania Moore made a jump shot with 5 seconds for the Owls' first lead since the opening minutes. 58 Owls, 57 Lady Pioneers would be your final. It was a heartbreaking finish to a stellar season for the Lady Pioneers. On the men's side, the men's basketball squad, the Pioneers, finished the regular season with a 23-5 overall record and 15-1 within their conference. They ended this season as the number 1 overall seed in the East Coast Conference. The Pioneers were absolutely on fire as the year went on. The team lost 1 game since the calendar flipped to the year 2012. They concluded the season winning 14 of their final 15 games. In the ECC tournament, the Pioneers were given a first-round bye. In the second round, they met Dowling and squeaked out a 68-64 win to advance to the finals. The Pioneers fired on all cylinders and won 86-67 and were automatically given a berth in the NCAA tournament.
could have ended up anywhere from 3 to 6. I felt, I was more concerned about who's our matchup. Let's get the film and let's get prepared. I think at that point, you got to focus on the things you control, and what we control is our efforts and our approach this week in practice, and then we control our performance when we go up there, and that's what we emphasize.
That was Pioneers head coach Chris Casey. Now here's Pioneers East Coast Conference Player of the Year Stephen Bonneau with his thoughts on the upcoming game.
Not to knock last year's team, but we had talent. But I think we have more talent this year, more chemistry this year, and we know that we could do some damage in the tournament. So we're really excited about that opportunity.
The Pioneers drew a 6th seed in the East region in the NCAA tournament and squared off against a team that they knew all too well, the 3rd-seeded Adelphi Panthers. These two schools used to be ECC rivals before Adelphi switched conferences, but the two teams also met earlier in the season back in December. In that contest, the Panthers won a nail-biter 83-79, with the Pioneers looking for revenge. The stage was set for the Pioneers at Assumption College in Worcester, Massachusetts, with a noon tip-off on Saturday, March 10th. The Pioneers started off the game hot as they led 11-5 5 minutes into the contest. It was a tightly contested first half as the lead traded hands 5 times, and there were 3 ties. The first half would end up by a score of 29-26 in favor of the Panthers. The second half played out much the same as both sides went back and forth, vying for a win that would catapult them into the next round. A crucial moment in the game came with over 5 minutes remaining in the contest. Pioneers guard Stephen Bonneau, a 2-time ECC Player of the Year and named the 2012 Division II East Region Player of the Year, went down with a serious hip injury. He had to be carried off the floor, and things looked bleak for the Pioneers. But despite Bonneau struggling in the game, scoring only 6 points, and now him leaving the game to injury, the Pioneers still led 63-56 with 3 minutes remaining in the game. After the Panthers went on an 8-2 run sparked by a timely 3-pointer by Bradley Simpson, the Pioneers' lead was now down to 1 point at 65-64. With the Lady Pioneers looking on at the men, everyone associated with the LIU basketball programs got a bad feeling that the men were going to suffer the same way the women did the day before. Following a timeout, the game came down to one last possession, with the Pioneers still leading 65-64. To the disbelief of everyone, it happened again. Lady Pioneers coach Deirdre Moore put it the best when she said, "This is deja vu. I can't believe this," after the men lost. So the final score was 66-65 in favor of the Adelphi Panthers over the LIU Post Pioneers. And it may be March Madness to people watching, but to the players, coaches, families, and universities that participate in this tournament, it just as well may be called March Sadness. The thought of both teams losing in the fashion they did was not expected. But this is why March Madness is so popular. Buzzer-beating shots, and it's win or you go home.